advertising on the social media and on Google, they're helpful, but yeah, the moment you get flagged for something or censored for something that you may not have to, you didn't do, but you're flagged in a certain category because it's all automated.
Yep, it's all automated.
And then trying to find
AI now,
trying to find a human to help you,
right?
is hard to do.
It is. It's so hard, which is so different from our businesses, right? Ours is all about the personal touch.
Personal touch.
Yeah,
and that's also the benefit of what we do, though. If you have enough people interactions, it changes the whole dynamic. Where people who mostly like we grew up in a different time where we didn't have phones,
right?
Didn't have any kind of our way of connecting with people was maybe a regular telephone,
right?
But mostly was in person.
Yeah.
So we have almost an advantage over my kids,
because they didn't have that experience
they grew up on a telephone,
right?
They grew up on a cell phone, and that's how they did all their communication.
Yeah.
Go to a restaurant and that's what they do. They're all talking over their phone. They're not talking in person.
Yeah. Sitting at the same table and texting each other.
Yeah. So you don't get that same connection with somebody.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's hard when you're trying to do business at that level, it's hard.
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our favorite part of the week. It's time to listen to Sounds of Health, where we share the stories, people, and resources that help others to improve their physical, emotional, and financial well-being. I'm your host, Dave MacNiven, and today I'm really excited to welcome our guest, Andrew Jambor. Andrew's one of the owners of Amston Home Transition Solutions, where they provide a wide range of services designed to help seniors and their loved ones with transition. From decluttering and packing to real estate services, they can help ease the stress of some of the challenges we all face as we get older. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, we're excited to have you here today. We are streaming on Facebook Live, so if anybody's joining us there, welcome. And please be sure to share the feed and get the word out. We are excited to kind of talk to you about all of the different things you're doing with Amston. But usually we start with a question, and that question is, what makes you happiest these days?
I think what makes me happy is just being able to be of service to others. It's like having that enjoy what we're doing type purpose every day, getting out there, enjoying, things like just, hey, I have a family that I cater to. I have business that I cater to, and that's something that does good things for other people. Yeah. So that's the kind of stuff that makes me happy.
Right.
Like those being able to produce something, and just have that purpose to do things. Because I'm not someone that can just sit still all day. I have like an ADHD, which I've had forever.
Right. Yeah.
So you have to, for someone like that, I could sit at a computer for a little while as long as I'm doing something, creating something. If I can't just sit in front of something and just watch it, right? I can't be like a scroller. Can't be
so you need that purpose.
Yeah, have to have something to kind of put your mind to, and that's productive. That you see as rewarding to somebody.
Yeah. So what you do in work is kind of feeding your happiness. Then
yes,
yeah,
it's kind of that tie-in, right? It kind of works together. It gives me that thing to put my focus on, to kind of think about, and help create something positive.
Right.
Because I'm like a big person on the energy side of things, positive vibe, positive energy, meditative type stuff to kind of get out there, put out in the universe.
Awesome.
And good things come back. And this is part of that, fulfillment, to say this is a good direction. You see how when you work with clients and you see the end result of that stress that someone takes on in the beginning, which is always there when you first meet them, not knowing what to do, you can tell, and then you go from that to, and what happens at the end, they can't believe something happened. They're relieved. So that's a big,
that's huge. Awesome. Yeah. I want to dive into all of that in more detail. But first, I just want to ask you about how you got here. So, how do you even get to being a part owner of a company like this? What's your background? Where'd you come from? And what's that road and journey look like for you?
Yeah. So I went to school, back in the 90s, Central, for graphic design and just doing IT related stuff. I went to school for computer science type stuff, graduate and master's in computer information technology. And that was kind of where I saw myself going, because that's, again, putting yourself into something that's problem solving, learning things. I was always interested and fascinated by code and things like that, how that translates into things. And that was just after the internet took off, early 2000s.
Sure.
So there's a lot of that going on. And then the design side was always fun to do, creating logos and marketing type stuff.
Right.
So I had that background coming out of school and went from that into commercial type, the commercial world, the corporate world, right? So doing things like software for pharmacy benefits programs and working for the State Department of Labor for a few years doing unemployment type software.
Oh, wow.
Things like that. And
so always on the IT side of things?
Yeah, always on the IT side, learning with the teams that I was with. I was usually on some kind of development team. So we learned different processes, agile type things, software processes, working one-on-one with people, working in pairs on coding. So that was fun for us, learning how that all worked, how those systems work and serve people. And we created products like that. So it was fun to create software. And that's what I thought I'd be doing eventually, moving out of that. And just, when we started a business back in 2000, probably 12 or 11, with Tom, who we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
That's who I first met in 2008. And we kind of started just creating things and products to try to sell and go off and do that as like a consulting out of the corporate world. So eventually stopped in like 2014. I was working for an aerospace consultant that was working for Pratt & Whitney, just helping design software for basically for like military.
Oh, wow. So you're working as a consultant at that time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like working through the company as a consultant.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And then eventually got laid off from there because it just became, the work slowed down. It wasn't working.
Right.
And then I said, well, we were already trying to do this consulting thing. Let's just jump in.
Yeah.
So we picked up a couple clients that were doing different apps, from restaurants to an addiction app for opiate addiction.
Oh, wow.
To help people kind of get over their addiction to opiates, and through like a video tutorial series that we worked with a doctor out of New Jersey on. And that was like what we were doing for a few years. Then it was funny because at the same time I said, well, I was in my 30s. I was really interested in building wealth through real estate.
Yeah.
And I'd always been fascinated by that and walked into the whole rich dad, poor dad, met people who I was working with. Hey, check this out. Look into these, and I started listening to all the books, the audio books while I was going for walks and stuff. And I was like, this is really cool. I didn't realize this is a possible avenue.
Yeah.
And that's where I started to learn more about that side of things while I was doing consulting, but also said, hey, I'd like to own some property someday and maybe have that as a retirement strategy.
Yeah,
with
sure.
Just your normal process, your normal 401k stuff and everything else. And we met, one of our other business partner, Jeff, came over to my house one day because my kid he was a plumber by trade, handyman. He was an apprentice plumber. He came over because I had an issue with a clog. So through a friend, I heard about him. He came over to fix the clog that my kid had thrown a spoon down the drain at 5 years old, and
that's fantastic.
Wasn't working. So he helped unclog it. We were talking about real estate. He was always interested in that as well. So we kind of formed that bond over that. And we took, courses on investing and stuff. And then we did our first flip in 2014 or 15. And then we went from there. And just over time, we said, okay, this is fun. And we got better at it. And now we have 6-7 properties over the years that we rented.
That's awesome.
So, and that started as more of a property management thing, was real estate related. And then it was probably 2018 that we got approached by Masonicare to buy property. Mm-hmm. They basically approached us to do, to say, hey, if you could purchase a property from a senior that's having trouble. The market was very different back then. Yeah. And there was a lot of houses on the market dealing, even left over from 2009, 10, all the foreclosure stuff. So there was more of a need for someone that could come in and buy a house for cash and then help someone remove that burden so they can move in to an assisted living. So that was where we initially got approached. And while we're meeting with them, they were like, oh, could you move them? Could you pack them? And we're like,
Wow.
We have contractors with us at the time.
Did you have an existing relationship with them? Like, how did they find you in particular?
They found us through a common friend of ours who worked for Griffin Hospital. He was one of the, like, he's like an attorney there, like a higher up. And
so he just referred.
He met with their CEO, CFO, one of their higher ups, marketing. I think it was their CMO actually. And so I made the connection with her through him. And then we just started talking about what we can offer from that side. Plus we had a marketing background and we had the software background. So there were some different things we could work with them on.
Yeah.
But it was primarily, they were interested more in the real estate side and then asking us if we can help out with moves. And we had established a mini team, so to speak, at that point of just contractors, but they could also do stuff like move things and help us with packing and stuff. So we just kind of said, okay, so there was basically 3 people that just kind of started with a couple clients they gave us.
That's amazing.
And both first clients we had were widowed people by themselves. One was legally blind, living in his house from when he was little. And the other one was just recently widowed. They were going to go to Masonic Care together. She passed away. He was alone in this big house with a bunch of stuff and not sure what to do with all the stuff. So we get there and he's got like 10 brochures and he's just like, I don't know what to do. And we're like, well, we'll figure it out. We'll just work together. Let's see what we can do.
Right.
Not knowing any better, just saying, hey, we'll just take this on. It seems like an interesting opportunity, challenge. Mm-hmm. And we just started working with him through all of his stuff. And like little by little, okay, let's work on he had a bunch of like trains and collectibles we had to work through and figure out where we can donate them and all these other little things along the way that we could just kind of parse through his wife's stuff because he didn't want to go anywhere near that stuff.
Yeah.
He had rooms up there he hadn't been in because he didn't want to go deal with that stress. So we were just helping him figure out what to do with all the things he couldn't take with him.
Right. Yeah.
And we just learned over time that this is something that people can use as we're going through it. And it was just one thing after another with this particular individual. He was in the hospital for a little bit. We couldn't find him. So because they're not going to tell us where he is.
Yeah, of course.
We had to call the hospitals and just say, hey, is this person here? And we eventually found him.
Oh, wow.
So we could tell him, hey, by the way, your house is okay. We just wanted to let you know because he was out for like a week and we're just like, we're, still going as planned, fixing up things around the house and taking care of your cat for you, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We realize you guys need, you need this while you're gone. And as we're just doing it, we're just thinking, yeah, this is something I think other people can use.
Right. Yeah.
And then it just went from there. We just kind of said, okay, well, let's kind of formalize this a little bit. So we created that business at that point. The Amston Home Transition Solutions kind of was born out of that. And it went from there. We just did more for Masonic Care over that time. And then we decided, this seems to work. Let's reach out to other communities over time and see if they need that kind of service. And they do. And so it just kind of went.
Right. That's amazing. So there's a lot I want to break down in that entire story. So the first thing is, it sounds to me like the business started because somebody came and asked you a question, can you do this?
Yeah.
And instead of saying, no, we don't do that, you said, yeah, we can figure it out. And then you figured it out and it brought you to a place where you obviously saw a need and then you built a business around that need. Does that sound right?
Yes, basically, yeah.
Which I think is really incredible because I think a lot of us get into business or we're in a position with a company and we feel like we have a role and we do a certain service or we do a certain thing and we have blinders on almost, right? And so when a new opportunity comes up, we say, nah, it's not what I do, and to take on something as broad ranging as what you just described was incredible. I'm sure you learned a ton just with that one client, and I'm sure that informed the business moving forward.
Yes. So that became that right there. We learned a lot of things we could potentially offer people.
Yeah.
And we've always had that kind of mindset going on. Like, how can we, take this and can we continue to do this? Can we offer this? It was a wide scope, like you mentioned. And how do you go from wide scope to,
And are you thinking at all about profitability at that point, or is that something we're going to figure out later?
Yeah, it was more like kind of go as we go, and we'll figure that part out. Can we, is it a profitable thing for us? Like, yeah, we could do this with the two of us.
Yep.
We'll figure something out, and how we charge for it. And that was the other thing. Like, what do we, how do we get to this point? What's appropriate? Because it's almost like you're kind of creating a market. You don't really know.
Yeah, totally.
Like, you have people that do that moving or there was always individual services at the time that helped with different aspects, but not all under like one umbrella.
Yeah.
There's move managers out there. There's transition companies out there that do bits and pieces, but it was they didn't really have all the components, and we were trying to figure out how we can stitch those together.
Gotcha.
And we're still figuring that out,
Yeah, that's great. And I think, not everybody's going to take that on. Not everybody's going to do that. And I do think it says a lot about you and your partners that you really were coming into the business with the desire to serve.
Yes.
Which I think is a really great thing.
Yeah, that's the important part, is just being there for the client, being there for knowing that what they're going through and understanding that, and just trying to figure out the best ways to serve them and come up with a solution that makes sense for that situation. Those different, because every situation is different.
Of course. Yeah. We talk about that all the time, and all of the different people we've talked to. It's, nobody's story, nobody's situation, it is the same. It's everybody has a unique point of view or a unique set of circumstances.
Absolutely.
For sure. Now, going back a little bit, so you, how did you know Tom initially?
I met him through a job working when we were doing software. That was 2008. It was probably a third job out of college.
Okay. So you guys met through work.
Yes.
And then you decided that first business was really the consulting business?
Yep.
And it was the two of you at that time?
It was the two of us at the time.
Gotcha. Okay. And so did you ever start a business before that, or this was the first kind of foray?
No, this would be like the first. It would be like the first foray into it. Like, it was more like, okay, we can kind of. We were thinking of. He was always thinking of trying to come up with products and stuff, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'm here to learn. Let's see what works and what doesn't. And then we learned this could be a potential thing where people can hire us, even if it's just to do some type of software updates or website work or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Right? There was an opportunity there just to kind of do it, because I was not ever one to be like, people joke around like, yeah, you just can't have a boss. You're always like the person that wants to do their thing, right? It's like, I know totally. I'd be a horrible employee, so to speak.
Right.
when it comes to stuff like
and
that.
It sounds like you were working with a number of different companies and industries. Like just the couple that you described in that story, it seems like they were very broad.
Yeah.
So you were getting a lot of experience in a lot of different areas. Different markets, just understanding, from the employee side of things, but also how those things work. Because I'm always been curious of how things work anyway, like diving in different aspects of that business. How do they test this? How do they go into, who's the product owner? Who's that person? What are they looking for? Yeah.
So we'd always interacted with different pieces of that. So it was always a lot more questions. I'd always ask to try to figure that out. Right.
So it was kind of a genuine curiosity that led you into these opportunities.
Learning and just kind of seeing it, and never, like you mentioned, never saying no to something. Yeah. Just, hey, we'll figure something out. Let's see if this works.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then, so Jeff came in as your plumber?
Yeah, he was basically just someone that had come in through a mutual friend that I was on a softball team playing, like a men's league playing softball.
Yeah, gotcha.
Just said, hey, I have this clog in my house. I don't really have a plumber contact. Do you have somebody?
Right, yeah.
And he had a handyman business at the time, so he was another one that was doing his own thing. So basically, two of the partners kind of already had that mindset of just like, I want to create something. He had a business with another person. He was working on his own. And so he had that background. And it just was funny how that issue, then we were just talking. It was had an interest,
Yeah, that's amazing. And so the way that comes together now, the three of you going into real estate and into this new business, just such an interesting story how that all happened.
Right. And every partner has their specific strength and weakness that we all try to help. We all kind of work well off of that.
Yeah.
So like where someone else is not strong, I'm helpful with certain things. Tom's helpful with certain things, and Jeff is more of that handy guy side, can work with, because we always say our business is like, it's a combination of blue collar, white collar.
Yeah.
Because you have all the workers, the staff, right? And then you have the office side of it and software, things like that we're trying to build for the business to help make the logistics easier for people on our team, because we have project managers and team leads now, and we have different hierarchy of people that we have to work with, and they all have different skill sets.
Sure. So it probably serves your personality really well, right? Because you said you were someone who can't sit still, a little bit of ADHD.
Yeah. Every day there's a problem to solve, right?
Right.
Or something, and it could be a lot of times it's a human problem, right? You have the learning how to be a leader. That's a big thing when you're dealing with different types of people, and you start small, you grow big, and all of a sudden grow bigger. You have to learn to let go of things.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I mean,
Not easy to
I've
do.
never been one to do that, but my
Yeah.
two partners have a lot more control on things. They want more control. And I'm
Yeah.
more like, no, let's let them do it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So we learned that.
So you started as kind of a 3-person team and built this company. How many people are involved now?
We have, I think we counted 25.
Wow. 25 employees or?
We have about of the 25, I think about 16 or 17 are employees.
That's
and the
amazing.
rest are part-time, but most part-time is still pretty good, 20 hours or more. They're still
Yeah.
pretty busy.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that had to have been a learning curve for you guys too. Did you guys manage teams before? Do you know what, did you have a business background at all?
I didn't have a business background, but I was on a team of like 8 developers. I wasn't the leader of the team, but we
Yeah.
worked together, and it was kind of we had a team lead, so to speak, on quotes, but a lot of it was just everybody worked together and came up with solutions together, threw that out there. So it was kind of like a different type of paradigm. It wasn't just like a
Gotcha.
top down thing. It was a team kind of came up with a solution and then presented it, and
Yep.
also had a right to do things within the organization.
Right, right. And I know my own experience in starting a business, it is a lot of work, right? And there's a learning curve if you haven't done it, if you don't have that background. How do you balance it all with, I mean, do you have a family as well? I'm assuming you're just extremely busy on that side of things too, right?
Yeah, it has its, you have to find that balance, so to speak, but there's going to be times where that balance kind of gets a little out of whack.
Sure.
I mean,
yeah.
it's just part of having that business. You're going to have weekends where you have to do stuff for the business, and you're going to have weekends where you have to do stuff with the family, and you have to make that time.
Right.
So routine helps with that a lot. Like if you have good, hard cutoff times, say, look, I'm going to not look at my phone past this time at night, put
Yeah.
it down, call it a night. Here's family time. Once I get to the door at the house, it's different, than coming when I'm in work, it's a different mode, or, they do blend at times, but you have to kind of, you figure that out, you find out what that good mix is. And sometimes you get too far, and sometimes you got to pull yourself back, and,
Right. You're always adjusting.
always adjusting. It's
Yeah.
never never perfect balance.
Gotcha. Now, are you originally from Connecticut?
No, I'm from New Jersey.
Okay. And did you come here for school? Is that
Yeah.
what brought you here? Okay. Gotcha. And then you loved it so much you decided to stay.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it was, we stayed up. I went to Central and then graduated there early 2000s and started work out there. And then, had from different various things, eventually met my wife, and that was out and just stayed in the town where she grew up. And from there, now our kids are older, right? So
Yeah.
I have an 18-year-old that's going to college
Oh, wow. Okay.
this year, and then one that's still a sophomore. So,
Gotcha.
but once she's out, then who knows? Might go somewhere outside of Connecticut. So,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we're kind of in the same boat. We have 2 boys, 16 and 14.
yeah.
So yeah, it changes constantly, right? And now that they're in high school and now looking at colleges,
Oh, yeah.
I can imagine what that's like for you. So you have a son or a daughter?
2 daughters.
2 daughters,
Yep.
and one is going to college. Gotcha. So how was that experience for you with looking at those opportunities for her?
She kind of knew what she wanted to do. She had committed over a year ago. She's going to play soccer and she's going to do
That's
track.
awesome.
So she's looking to do nursing eventually, once after a year of doing the general coursework. So she kind of already had that figured out what she wanted to do.
Yeah,
So
that's great.
she's kind of like that mindset of, I know what I want, and just
Yeah.
we help her figure things out with it, but she's already kind of decided. It wasn't like
Gotcha.
she went to a few different schools, but it was just like, yep, we're good.
Right.
Okay.
That's awesome.
was
Nice
happy
to
with
have
that.
somebody who knows what they want. Right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, going back to the business in Amston, I was on the website a little bit this morning. I saw it was guidingthemove.com. Is that where you point people to learn about you? Or?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. And then it looks like you have an extensive list of services that you provide. Can you tell me a little bit more about what all of that is, and when people should reach out to you?
Yeah. So we offer a lot of different things within, basically someone will look at us and say, oh, are you a mover? We're like, no, we're more than a mover, but people will pigeonhole us into things sometimes because of how we're referred from communities of oh, you're just a mover. No, we do a lot more. We're comprehensive. That's why we try to call ourselves a one-stop shop, a transition service. So we can offer things like your packing and your downsizing, helping you figure out what's going to fit in your apartment is a big part of that. What's not going to go. what you do with the items you're not sure about. Can you sell an item? Can you do an estate sale with it? Is it, what are the things around the house that need to be done? Like, do you need your house cleaned? Do you need it modified or updated in some way if they're not going to be moving out somewhere?
Yeah.
So there's like, those services have that's kind of been that the birth of all those services came from just our experience. Like, okay, they need help. They're going to need help with this. We could offer this as a service. They need help with, even if it's like property maintenance, because we have that background already as property managers.
Yeah.
If they don't want to sell the home and they can go in and keep their home there, that their kids may want their home eventually or something, then we can help kind of maintain it and make sure everything is running properly in the home.
Oh, wow.
Home safety checks, things like that.
Yeah. So working as property managers as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, because we manage our properties. So
Yeah.
we have that background of, if we need to make sure the grass is cut or make sure the snow's, moved out of the way for the students and everything that we have, or anything else, we can do that.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. So, and you are managing properties as well. So you said you had 6 properties. Is that correct?
We have 6 in town, and then we have a 6 family in Middletown. So yeah, we have about 7. I think we have 7 total.
Oh, wow. That's great. And so that's a part of the business. It's
part of our real estate arm of our business. Okay. Yeah.
Gotcha. And so how do you get the business? Where are you finding clients, and how can, when should people reach out to you? So
we find clients a lot. It's word of mouth. That was how we started, right? And most everybody. And we still do that, because you'd be surprised how many times you work with a client, you think you move them in, like, oh, hey, we're good. Right. And then a month later, they'll call you like, I don't like it here.
Really?
Okay, we got to go.
Got to move again?
Yeah, move again, or, and down it goes. Sometimes it's just, and it's also levels of care. If they move into like one of those continuum CCRC type communities where it's a continuum of care, then they start off independent, then they move into assisted, and it goes from there, memory care or some other thing. So you might be coming back just to continuously help them. Or the family may say, hey, something happened. Can you clear out the apartment? That kind of thing. We've done that too.
That's amazing. So it's not really transactional. It's more now they have somebody they can call whenever any of these things come up.
Yeah. It's definitely, initially when we went into this, we figured it would just be that, we're going to help you that one time, maybe do a full slate of services from beginning to end, like we did with our first couple clients, where it's like, okay, we've got to help them with everything, got to help them sell the house, fix it up, all this stuff. And then we wouldn't have to worry about it. But then, a year later, it's like, hey, you need your help again to move somewhere else, or even if they go in and something happens, like sometimes assisted living communities, they bring you in and then all of a sudden it's just not as advertised, and you'll get someone that, maybe the staff wasn't something happened and it just
not the right fit.
It wasn't a good fit. Or maybe the rents went up unexpectedly, something that happens.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, we got to go again, and we go help, we'll come back in and move.
That's awesome.
So it does almost become a lifetime, because that's what we've learned. There's a lot more lifetime value to clients like this.
Yeah.
Because even the families who learn about us, we've also picked up stuff from that. Like daughters will reach out and say, hey, you moved my mom, did a great job. Can you move me, or can you help me do this?
Okay. So you'll do those as well.
Yeah.
So not just for seniors in transition.
Yeah. Sometimes we'll pick up other things out of that we weren't expecting, but we can.
Yeah.
So we have a 10,000 square foot warehouse in Wallingford where we do storage there.
Okay.
But a lot of what we also do there is we run auctions for estate sales out of there. So we bring stuff back to sell for people, and we'll also store the items, but also if someone needs it, like perfect example, we have a client that's younger that's moving into a house, but they're moving from New York to Connecticut. And in the meantime, they're like, we have furniture get delivered. Can we start with you? In the meantime, yeah. So they deliver furniture to us, we store it, and then we can move everything in at one time. Okay. So it provides flexibility. And we also will ship items for senior clients that want to ship some heirloom, precious thing to their child somewhere else in Texas. We can work with, because we have UPS next to us, we have a couple places we can do that. Okay,
gotcha. So I'm a person out there that needs one of these services. When am I calling you?
Basically, the earlier people call us, the better, because it's like if they feel like all of a sudden, like they need a specific thing in terms of like, I'm not sure where to get started. A lot of times I have a lot of stuff I don't know what to deal with. like downsizing situation, or I just have a lot of things to go through. Over time, I've accumulated things from my kids in the basement, attic, whatever it is.
Right.
They're not coming to get them. And I just need to figure out what the next steps are. So we come out for free to kind of sit down with them and
So
kind of
free consultation
to walk them through a plan.
Yeah, that's great.
And just to kind of say, it's whenever you have questions about like anything, like what can I do with this stuff? I don't know what I want to do with my situation. Some people they're like, look, I don't want to necessarily move into a community. I want to stay home.
Yeah.
And we've had that happen. We have a couple in Woodbridge right now that was like, hey, we're in our 80s, but we're not planning on going anywhere, but we've had a couple of falls at home. We want help. Can you come make the home safer? Like that could be something. So now we're going to help them with, they have a tile floor that's like a mosaic tile. And they were like, we just want to kind of make this safer. So we're going to put a padding down on the floor. We're not going to take the tile out because the tile is coming back into style, as we were telling them. Like when you eventually do want to sell, you want to keep this. We don't want to damage anything. So we're going to put in a carpeting without tacking it in too hard so that it's safe for them to get around in the meantime. And then they also wanted to put a ramp in outside for handicap access type things, and also move the washer dryer from the basement upstairs so they don't have to go downstairs anymore.
Yeah,
one
level.
Do a lot of that to make it safer, so they don't have to go anywhere right away if they don't want to. They keep their independence, and then we're there if they need us to do other stuff. So it's like anytime that comes up, we always say, if you have questions about making the home safer in terms of mobility, getting around, and in terms of like just not sure what to do with your items or what to do, even if it's like, who do we go to? Like if, we are interested in eventually going into communities, they could still start with us because we built up such a referral network to say, you know what, we know this person works well, like a Mel or someone we talked about earlier.
Right.
We know that she works well with this personality type, and we can pair her up. And at least they could start the conversation. Just like with selling a home too. I'm a licensed realtor, but I refer out to other realtors that work well with that certain type of client, because not everybody's a good fit for everybody. You can tell when you're sitting down and talking to them and say, okay, this person would be a good fit for you. You don't have to go with them, but at least they'll come out. They'll give you the idea of what things are worth.
Right.
Give you at least a plan of action to say when you're ready. Now you have at least, you're armed with that knowledge. So it's more like a lot of it's educational.
Of course.
For us.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've had a lot of those conversations on this podcast. I think a lot of the people we've had on are probably people you have referral relationships with. And that's one of the things I love about what we do too, is that, people come to us for their insurance needs, but we have so many more people like in our back pocket, like that we can help and share, send a referral, make sure that you have all of the things that you need. And companies like yours, I mean, it sounds like you're just looking at everything that a person needs and really trying to find a solution for them, which I think is really great.
Yeah. That's kind of what that's how we started. It's like, what can we do? Who's the best fit? Can we build out a strong network of people just to give them resources? It's like, even if you don't use us, it's fine. We just want to make sure you got a good direction.
Sure. Yeah. Gotcha. Now, are there any major challenges that you're facing in this industry? Anything that's really, standing in your way at all?
The biggest challenge to growth, I would say, for us in terms of is basically getting the right type of people, finding the right type of people that work well with seniors and the families, because there's a lot of, trust involved, a lot of psychology involved.
So that would be the staff, the employees?
Yeah, making sure they have certain standards, the correction. The leadership side would be the most challenging part, because we're all learning that as we go. And it's, making sure that you have people that are dependable, that can come and work within the vision you're kind of setting forward. Right. Your staff is going to be someone you're kind of give them the empowerment of leadership to kind of, hey, this is like your grandparents, treat them like that. We want to make sure that when we come in, we're not, running around and going too fast, and, it's efficient, professional. And these are the type of things we're always trying to teach and train. And so we're building up training programs as we learn stuff. It's like, okay, this is something we should address. This was an issue that happened. Maybe something got broken in transit. Okay, how do we fix that going forward? What kind of things can we put around it where it's not too controlling and constricting? Because you want people to have the freedom to do things and think about things on their own, right? Going back to the control versus the non-control, right? It's that balance.
Yeah.
So when you have 3 business partners that have different interpretations, you want to kind of come together on that.
Sure.
So that's the biggest challenge in terms of growth is because there's plenty of work to go around, and it's just trying to be able to fill that. We turn down things because a lot of times you'll get last minute situations. Someone's got to get moved because they got to come out of, maybe they're coming out of rehab and they have to move tomorrow, or something's got to get done tomorrow. And, we might be booked out a month because we're just that busy, and we're trying to get more staff to accommodate that and train. And
gotcha. Okay.
That's the process. And once we figure that out, and the logistical side of building out, because we're in the process of building our own software to help us kind of do that and make our business easier to run for people as well on our team, so we can get more information communicated quicker about a particular process, about a particular job, where things are going, floor plan, where's this got to go, how do we address this if it doesn't fit, those scenarios come up.
So you're bringing your background in to kind of have a solution. Is that an internal software?
Yes.
Or okay, so not like a client facing?
Not a client face. Well, it will be eventually.
Yeah.
For now, it's like an internal, just to make sure
for efficiency's sake,
right? Just let our office use it, make sure it makes sense, and then eventually what we can envision is something where the client will also have input into that. Like they may be able to fill out, if they're tech savvy enough, an intake on like an iPad or something, or on a computer, what they were trying to move, give us that stuff ahead of time before we even come out there, and then we can present more efficient pricing, more efficient, maybe show a room layout ahead of time, what it would look like.
You're right. Gotcha.
And that kind of thing, where it's just going to be more streamlined and
that's great,
more efficient,
Yeah. And do you guys have a vision of where you want the company to go and what kind of growth you want to achieve?
Yeah, we've always talked about it over the last couple of years, is once we get or at least get to a good point with the systems we have, because with our background and with the way we've kind of grown it, and we could see the potential of it, we know that we can open other locations, right? Whether it's in Massachusetts and nearby initially, just to make it easier to manage initially. But Florida would be a good market. Eventually, maybe franchise. We've always talked about franchising.
So possibly like initially actually opening up another office for your company, but then franchising it eventually?
Yep.
Gotcha. That's really great.
So we're putting all those things in place now just to kind of build those systems out. And they're always going to change, but just trying to get the framework as much as it can be. It's always going to be something that has to be pliable, but we know that the long-term goal is to open up, other locations that we can have operators run, and then, make sure they're going okay and smooth, and get them off the ground, and then let them do their thing and keep our standards and our practices in place. But,
sure. Yeah. Yeah. That's really awesome. So it sounds like you have a lot on your plate. There's a lot of things that you're doing, between family life, between the business. The business seems so broad and amazing. What are some of the practices that you have to keep yourself healthy?
So basically, I think it was before all the pandemic stuff happened that I was probably almost 300 pounds I must have weighed at the time.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Because I grew up, I played football in college. I wasn't a starter, but I was a lineman. I was big. I was like 315, played tackle and all that fun stuff. And then after that, it just was one of those journeys where it was like yo-yoing, like you get out, all of a sudden you're still eating the same amount of food you've eaten before, but you're not working out as much.
Right. Yeah.
So you get
catches
big,
up with you. Yeah.
Then you go on all kinds of okay, I'm going to go on this Weight Watchers thing or this other thing, and just learning over time, that yo-yo, I must have bounced between 300 pounds and 230 pounds for over the years, on and off, different times. And this last time, it was probably 2020, around the time we were, we were busier than, obviously our work, we never stopped right during that whole time, but I was still interested in all right, I want to do something about this. I don't want to, so just started paying more attention to the discipline side of things. Mm-hmm. One of the guys I listen to podcasts is Andy Frisella. He's got a podcast.
Yeah, sure.
So I did the 75 hard thing.
You did. Okay. Yeah.
And that's where I first was like, all right, I'm going to be disciplined. And once I got into it, it got real easy not to go after the food and those things that I used to eat a lot. And it was easy to maintain it once I got it under control.
Yeah.
So went through all the different phases of that and said, okay, this is great. Now, how do I maintain it and keep it, and that was part of that process. And just, I was able to drop the 50 pounds and then got down to like 218 a few years ago. It was too thin. When you get to a point where you're too thin, I'm like, look, I don't like this. It doesn't feel right. So then I went and I learned more about metabolism and learned more about how you can build your metabolism and build muscle the right way and cut the right way. So you can go constantly between cuts and bulks, so to speak.
Right.
And that got me learning, following programming, because I was always a big gym guy. I always liked to lift weights, and I've always, that was my background for years, and just going playing football. And then I stayed with that.
Right.
It's one thing I never really stopped doing was just working out. So I just now I just trained it, honed it in more to a better practice where now I can maintain, and it just kind of keeps me where I'm at in a nice range of like 240, 250, where I'm happy.
Yeah.
And just my strength is there, and that's what I've kind of focus on is like, so yeah, I'm always doing, at least in the gym, even if it's not lifting hard every day, it might be stretching, but I'm just got that habit of going every day.
Right.
Every day, no matter what, and go for like an hour. Just
you're in the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. And then walking 10,000 steps at night, or whatever throughout the day.
Right.
Making sure I go out a couple times and just kind of kept that framework.
Yeah. Yeah. As something that is just something you don't not do, right?
Yeah. It's like a no compromise thing now. I've gotten
right.
so into it. It's like I get up at, 5 o'clock, I get out there, I get to the gym and I go for 45 minutes, come back, and whatever it is, whether it's a lift or a walk, I don't really run or stuff like that anymore. It's not because I've learned that kind of stuff is not great for...
It's a lot on the body.
A lot of the body, and also not great for muscle.
Yep. Totally.
It'll eat away all that stuff. So you don't want to do that. And so you can have some cardio, but it's mostly just steady state walking is the biggest thing now I do. And
steady state walking is
like just normal walk. They call it steady state cardio. It's just normal walking.
Okay.
And like trying to get those good pace, nothing too fast, too slow, but
gotcha. And just getting those 10,000 steps in and making it a habit.
Make it a habit of just getting out, walking around, and just keeping that. And then doing some with that combined with a little bit of like, trying to find yourself in terms of mental, spiritual type journey, right? That's like I mentioned energy earlier. That's a big thing of me. Like I'm very big on the whole mind body connection, like where you get like, healing yourself with your mind. If something's not feeling right, being able to put your mind in a positive direction, regardless of what happens. And then that tends to take away all that stress and say, hey, I got a good feeling about this, a good vibe about this, regardless of what's going on in the world. You could always go inside and just make that. Yeah. You calm yourself down pretty quickly. If you learn the techniques and how to do it, all of a sudden you can get rid of that and shake it off. And, we all get anxious at that stuff, especially if you get overwhelmed by anything that could happen through the day. Mm-hmm. So just by being able to take that in, even if it's for like a few seconds internal, boom,
Yeah. So taking the time to visualize and to get your mind right. Yep. And
even if it's positive for a few seconds, like, they have the different brain waves, I've been reading a lot about a book I read about from Jose. I think it's Jose de Silva. It talks about mind control and techniques you can use to kind of put yourself into alpha state from your beta state. Beta state is your constant normal function of just being here. We're in beta, but you could put yourself into that alpha state pretty quickly, and you can learn. It's almost like a hypnosis, but you can train yourself to do it by doing certain things, like putting your fingers together like this. All of a sudden you can train your body just to calm down and just kind of say, hey, relax, it's okay, and you can tell yourself that way. Your subconsciously starts taking over. That's interesting. So you're actually putting that into practice for yourself. That's great. Yeah, that's really great. Just kind of, it's that whole, like you mentioned, visualization is part of that, but also the healing and that telepathic stuff. It's amazing all that stuff that people can do with their mind if they put their mind to something. Yeah, absolutely. I get a lot of that. I mean, obviously this podcast has opened me up to so many different people that have come in here and talked about the various practices that they have. But you hear it in business too. Like when you're, I'm out there trying to learn more about how to structure a business, how to run a business. And there's a lot of those things now where they're talking about the positive mindset, making sure that you're taking the time to do that, getting enough sleep, like all Sleep's of these huge. Things. Yeah. I mean, you said you're waking up at 5 a.m. So when are you getting to bed? I try to get to bed by 10, but it's like not always possible. Not always possible. Yeah. So but sleep is definitely something that has to be, it's very important. It's almost more important than getting into the gym. It's just because your body needs that recharge. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and mind and body.
Oh,
so your mind needs that recharge, right? And your body needs that recharge. You need to recoup, and your memories need to establish, and all of those things. There's just so many things that you need.
Yeah, you need that deep sleep, and you also just need that ability to give your body a chance to heal itself.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
It's so important.
Yeah, it definitely is. So that's great. I mean, all of that is awesome. I had a few friends who did the 75 hard and had some success with it. So that's Andy Frisella. I listened to his podcast. So a lot of things out there for people. And that's kind of what we're trying to do with this podcast, is just shine a light on those things.
Yes.
What people are going through that your company is helping are transitions and times in their lives that are extremely stressful. So to have a company or a group of people that are there and alleviating that stress and helping them, I think it's a really amazing thing. And I love the whole story that you have about how you came to this business.
Yeah, I still feel like we're finding ourselves.
Yeah,
So,
sure. Yeah. We'll never stop learning, right?
No, it's always going to be something. Even if we, this grows into what we want it to, there'll be something else after that. Okay, what can we do next?
Right.
Where can we go next?
Yeah, it sounds like it. To me, it sounds like you guys aren't done by a long shot. So I'm wishing you all the best in growing the business. I want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule for being here today.
Yeah, thank you.
And we'll definitely point people in your direction. Amston is doing such a fantastic job for people. So if anyone is out there on Facebook or listening to the podcast who is in one of these situations, give these guys a call, give them a chance to come out. Free consultation, you said, right? So you don't have to question. You can just call and see what they can help with.
Yep, absolutely. We're here for that. If your family, if you have a parent that's struggling and you're not around to help them, it's a lot of what we see. They can just let us know and we can go check on everything and help them out.
That's awesome. Well, Andrew, thank you again for being here today.
Yeah.
It's great to have you on the show, and hopefully we'll have you back at some point.
Sounds great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. If you're out there on Facebook Live, be sure to share this feed and get the word out. Help us to share the Sounds of Health. And also, if you're here for Andrew, go back and check out some of our past episodes. We've had some really amazing guests. We're trying to share all of these different resources that people have so that all of us out there can live healthier lives. And we're just getting started. So thank you all. Have a great day. Sounds of Health is brought to you by Nutmeg Insurance Advisors and recorded at the offices of Nutmeg Advisory Group. The podcast is produced by Jason Carubia and Dave MacNiven with music by Rob Hames. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, X, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. Your support means a lot to us, and we appreciate it when you like, subscribe, and leave a review. If you know someone who you think should be a guest on the show, please email us at SoundsofHealthPodcast@gmail.com. Each week, we help you move the needle toward better health by spotlighting the stories, people, and resources that inspire and motivate others. And we are just getting started. Help us share these sounds, and don't keep us a secret.